Welcome to the latest Motley Fool scoreboard. I'm on in Chocolate, and we've got longtime fools, Jason Hall and Dan Caplinger, giving a 1 to 10 rating to a top 200 stock in the primary Hidden Gems database. It's Costco, ticker symbol COST. Rate the strength of Costco's business first, including factors like industry and competition. 10 is invincible. A 1 is hopeless. Both of you have 9, Stan.
Yeah, Costco has defined its category. It reinvented the shopping experience when it first came out. It has continued to resonate among customers decades later. Look, people like to shop in store. Doesn't matter that e-commerce has made everything easy. There's still something to putting your fingers on things, finding bargains. This business model, it fits that need. It makes sure that consumers get that experience. And the fact that they've also added a successful e-commerce offering, that just adds to the company's value proposition. And Costco's been able to keep up with the times without losing that special sauce that got everybody to come in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, you have the treasure hunt part of the story that I think is true, but also there's a psychological aspect of paying that membership fee. You want to get the most out of it, so you buy more things there, and that's great. So the business knows its value proposition. It knows why it exists. It knows how to deliver on it. And then this is the real kicker, why this is a top 3 retailer for me. All the boring but super important blocking and tackling stuff on retail operations, like logistics, getting the stuff in the right stores in the right markets, having the staffing well, surge staffing when you're going to be busy, using technology increasingly to move the lines faster. Just anecdotally, I was in my local Costco and the line went from the front of the store literally all the way back to the seafood counter when we were checking out a couple of days ago. And we were out of there from when we got in the line to when we were loading into the car, less than 10 minutes. They know what they're doing, and you're seeing it happen with Costco in real time.
Right on. For management, a 10 is Warren Buffett. A 1 is Homer Simpson. Jason's at a 7. Dan, you're at an 8.
Yeah, Ron Vackris has done a reasonably good job. I mean, it's really difficult. I'm not sure that any CEO is ever going to compare to how the first CEO and the co-founder, Jim Sinegal, did with the company, making the company what it was. But look, Ron's done a reasonably good job keeping the legacy alive. I really like the fact that he's been a company lifer. He started out at Costco as a forklift operator, worked his way up. That's been something that is a valuable experience, I think, probably resonates with the workers as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. Maybe the best compliment I could give him, Dan, is that he's the third CEO in the company's history, and it feels like they've only ever had a single CEO. The business is so unchanged in their execution. And the other thing too, I gave a 7. That's lower. I'll explain why. But if I told you the S&P was up an average of 22% a year since it was announced that Vackris would be the next CEO, you'd probably think the stock underperformed. But Costco stock's up like 26% a year since October 2023. So why am I not giving a higher score, or at least matching Dan's 8? But because simply the multiple expansion has done most of the heavy lifting for the stock price. Revenue's only up 17%. Since it was announced he'd be CEO, and that's fine. It's what the business is. But free cash flow was up only about 3.5% over that period. I mean, here's one thing, maybe give them credit. At least at these multiples, the board's not repurchasing a ton of stock. The share count basically hasn't changed.
For financials, a 10 is a fortress, a 1 is yikes. Jason's at an 8. Dan, you're at a 9.
Yeah, it's just running strong at Costco. Steady sales growth, margin expansion, even in a tight margin business, which is always impressive. A good net cash position on the balance sheet, a lot of free cash flow to help manage the debt. I like what I'm seeing from Costco financially.
Yeah, again, I'm in an 8, a little bit lower here. A great job turning that modest revenue growth into more earnings and operating cash. Balance sheet's very, very strong, but I am dinging them a little bit. It feels like maybe there's too much cash. It's about $10 billion in net cash. It's been over 2 years since the last time the company paid a special dividend. So maybe that's what's going to happen here pretty soon with some of that cash.
All right, Jason, let's move on to valuation. How well will Costco's stock do over the next 5 years? How safe is it? Keeping in mind a 10 is a sure thing, a 1 is a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I mean, Dan and I are going to tell a really similar story here. 5 to 10% in annualized returns, certainly a big drop from what we've seen. And my safety score is 6, probably a lot lower than what a lot of people are expecting to hear. But multiple expansion, I think, has created some risk here. Now, not necessarily the risk of permanent loss of capital, but expectations are probably messed up. People seeing that 20+% a year in returns, I think there's a high risk of underperformance for long-term investors at this point. But here's the bottom line. It's a mid-single-digit revenue-growing company that's not buying back stock, pays a modest dividend, and it just got to 3% profit margins. You're not going to get market-beating returns at 52 times earnings.
Yeah, and that's where my score is 5 to 10%, safety score is 6. I think the lesson here is even a really stellar business does not always make a really market-crushing investment going forward if you're not paying attention to valuation. 50 times earnings, it just seems a little bit silly. At some point, I think the premium on the safety that Costco offers is going to fade, at least to some extent. That may dampen returns going forward.
It's pretty amazing that people think Costco's is safe and have put it up as high as it has multiple-wise when it's not a serious omni-channel place, right? You can get Costco deliveries and stuff, but you don't think of it as, oh, let me just go to the Costco website versus like Walmart, things like that.
It's a warehouse where you go to pick up gallons of mustard.
Right. Thank you to both Jason.
And maybe a few ounces of silver.
That's true. Thank you to both Jason and to Dan. They're giving Costco a solid overall score of 7.2 out of 10. Jason prefers TJX as a top it due to its faster growth, high margins, and lower earnings multiple. Dan doesn't think any retailer comes close to Costco. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is Accenture. Till then, Fool on. Jason, you said Costco was a top 3 retailer. You had TJX as a top it. What's your third retailer in that top 3?
You're just going to have to wait to find out.